So we know that the average person is generating 2 and 1/10 kilograms of trash per day. And we said that we're going to look at a normal year that is 365 days. So the first thing I'm going to do to figure out how much it would be in a year is I'm going to take 2 and 1/10 and I'm going to multiply that by 365. So when we do that, we're going to do what we've been practicing. I'm going to move this decimal over. A quick way to do that is multiply by 10, which is going to change that number to 21 times 365. So I'm going to go over to the side. I'm going to flip that around. Remember, multiplication is commutative, which means the order doesn't matter. 6, 3. Move on to the tens place. 12, 13, 6, 7. And we're going to get this 7,665. And because I multiplied by 10, my answer is 10 times bigger than it should be. So I am going to divide by 10 by moving my decimal back once. And I get 766 and 5/10 kilograms. That's how much trash that an average American person consumes in 1 year. Now, I told you that of that trash, half of that goes to landfills, and I said about a third of that gets recycled. That's on average about these numbers. Now, in order to figure out how much goes to landfills, I know that half of this number, 766 and 5/10, half of that goes to landfills. So what I'm going to do first is, if I wanted to know how much goes to landfills, I would take 766 and 5/10, and I would divide that by 2 to figure out how much goes to landfills. And in order to figure out how much gets recycled, I would take 766 and 5/10, and I would divide that by 3. And that would tell me how many kilograms of that trash would be recycled and how many kilograms would be put into landfills once I finish these two things. Now, I want to go back to this original number of 766 and 5/10, and I want to talk a little bit about kilograms, and I want to talk about what it means to be a kilogram. Now, remember when we're talking about kilograms, we're talking about the metric system. And in the metric system, our base unit for mass is the kilogram. And you'll notice that the word kilogram has that prefix kilo. Now, kilo literally means 1,000. So if we have a kilogram, that literally means 1,000 grams. A kilogram is about 2.2 pounds. So a kilogram is bigger than a pound. It's a little more than 2 pounds. 2.2 pounds would be the same as 1 kilogram. So we know about the size of the kilogram. Now, we also in the metric system just have a basic unit, which is called a gram. And a gram is roughly the size of a paperclip. So I usually say if you imagine the weight of a paperclip, that is about what a gram feels like, just to give you an idea. And then we also in the metric system have a smaller unit of measurement, which is called a milligram. And we see that prefix milli, and that prefix is actually the opposite. It's really small. It's like taking a gram and splitting it into 1,000 pieces. So we say milli means a thousandth of a gram. So think about splitting a paperclip into 1,000 pieces. So we have a gram that's like a paperclip. We have a kilogram that would be like 1,000 paperclips, 1,000 grams. And then we have a milligram, which is 1,000th of a gram. It's like splitting that paperclip up into 1,000 tiny pieces. Now, in the metric system, we use the idea that we've been talking about of tens, hundreds, thousands, multiplying and dividing in order to convert between our units. So if I knew that in a given year we use 766 and 5/10 kilograms of trash, and I wanted to know, well, how many grams would that be? One thing I can do is I can think, well, how many grams does it take to make a kilogram? And we know because we have that prefix kilo, it takes 1,000 grams to make a kilogram. Now, one thought that goes through my head is, would it take more grams to make 766 and 5/10 kilograms, or would it take less grams? It's going to take a lot more because grams are much tinier than kilograms. So because every one of these 766 and 5/10 kilograms is going to be 1,000 grams, I'm just going to take that number and multiply by 1,000. Now, we learned that a quick way to multiply by 1,000 is kind of like multiplying by 10 3 times, or moving the decimal 3 times to the right. So I would move it over here in my decimal. I would move it 1, 2, 3 times. And in these two empty spaces, I would put zeros, and I would get this number, which would then tell me that an average person in 1 year generates 766,500 grams of trash. Now, we can also go in the opposite direction if needed, and we can also figure out milligrams, or the same direction would be going a little further, milligrams, which are even smaller. Now, when we convert within the metric system, we're always using this idea of multiplying and dividing by tens, hundreds, and thousands. We're going to be practicing this a little bit today. So think about some of these prefixes that we learned. Think about how we can multiply and divide by tens, hundreds, and thousands. And let's practice this idea.